Hey guys, welcome back. And if you are new here, welcome. This week I have a thrift book flip and there's a little sentimental message. I end up cutting that page out, but I wanted to cover up the names just for privacy's sake. I don't know who it is, but you never know. So you got to see a cute picture of my dog at least. But this is a thrift flip book and I wanted to keep it functional. It's a gardening book. I love to garden. No need to cover that information up with paint or make the book stick together where you can't ever look at it. So I wanted to keep that in mind as I did this project and just very, very carefully cover the edges. That way you'd still be able to open it and read the book if you wanted to. So the book was very clean. I just started to, there's my cat, but I started to apply gesso all over. My gesso brush is missing in action, so I had to use one of my nicer brushes. I don't usually recommend that. It's kind of thick and a little bit hard on your brush. So I've given this time to fully dry, and I'm going to go ahead and do my decoupage layer. I'm just building this as I go with what I have on hand. I don't have a clear plan. I like to do this and kind of see how it turns out. So this is a decoupage fiber from Redesign with Prima. I believe it's called Chirping Bliss. It's a limited edition. I'm cutting it with fabric scissors, by the way. But it's an A3 pack, so I can use it for other projects as well. They're reversible, which is pretty cool. And I lined it up the way that I thought would work best for this project. I'm going to tear the edge that is going to be more exposed on the front, and then the outer edges will be sanded down. But this one edge, I'm tearing it because it's a lot easier to kind of blend it into your project when it's a torn edge versus a stark, crisp edge. I just want to note that at the time of making this video, this is not a decoupage fiber pack that I currently have available in my shop. But if you really like it, maybe you can find another Redesign with Prima retailer that is carrying this right now. I'm just going to be covering the entire front cover of my book with decoupage gel. I'm using the matte version. And I like to go over it in different directions just to make sure I'm covering it completely. And I really like to wear gloves, or you can use a plastic saran ball and push your paper into it. But with the gloves, you can kind of eliminate that step and just do it with your glove. This size worked out really well. It's perfect for this book. Once that's applied and exactly where I want it, I'm going ahead and covering it with the decoupage gel again on the front portion. So I'd started trying to sand those edges off. My paper was either worn out or just too high of a grit, which is fine. It's easier to step back down than to have too heavy of a sandpaper and try to clean that up. So I end up grabbing a different pad that's a little bit lower of a grit, and then it came off a lot easier. So I noticed a little bit of that green right there. I don't like that. I want to go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping and cover it up with some gesso, giving it time to fully dry so my book will still be functional. And now for the fun part. I'm going to dust my mold with cornstarch and just start building with some clay. I really don't like working with clay with gloves on, but I was supposed to be getting ready to go somewhere with my husband, and I really wanted to go ahead and get this on there so I could get it dried and start painting. My hands usually get really messy, so this just makes cleanup just a little bit quicker for me. And this is DOS clay. It's one of my favorites to work with. And this is an air dry clay, and I have found that it works very well for these kind of projects. for this project, I'm going to be gluing my molds down with Mod Podge. For some reason, I always thought it was Mod Podge until the last few years when I really started using it more. I don't know if that's a Southern thing or not. I've heard a lot of people call it Mod Podge, but it is technically Mod Podge on the canister. You'll have to drop a comment down below if you've always called it Mod Podge as well, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. So I found this really cool stencil online. I'm going to apply it with an embossing type medium called chalk paste and a palette knife. And I've actually flipped my stencil upside down for this portion because it doesn't matter. I'm not using any of the words right now. And I just am fitting this in and still building as I go and trying not to cover too much of my beautiful fiber paper up, but I still want to add some cool details, especially around the edges. So I sped that drying process up a little bit manually. And then I'm just going to keep building with some clay accents just to give this a lot of depth and character. I was trying to not get messy hands, but you'll see I ditched the gloves again and then just start having fun with it. I'm making a lot of pieces this time before gluing them down. That way I can see how it all works together before I make a full commitment to where now that all of my clay is completely dried, I'm going to be adding a beautiful dusty blue color to the border of my book. And I'm trying not to do that too heavy on these open edges, but I still want some of that color just to give it more of a cohesive look. And all of my moldings will get this color as well. So what I just did right here was take a wet paintbrush that I misted with my water sprayer, and I just kind of went around the edges that my bigger paintbrush had a little bit more paint on and smeared it around. It gives it a bit of a glowy look and softens those edges up. So now I have a sealed book on both sides, and I'm going to be adding glaze. The reason I sealed it first is so I could control my glaze better. This is going to give it more of a vintage look, and I'm just applying it and wiping it back. I use water from my slow mist spray bottle when necessary. It makes it a little bit easier to wipe some of that back. So my final step is just going to be highlighting some details with a metallic wax called Celestial. This one's by Redesign with Prima, and I'm just going to apply it with my finger. These molds are so detailed, and just highlighting them with a little bit of wax sometimes can go a long way. Thank you so much for following along with me. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was so much fun to create, and I hope it's inspired you as well. Have a great week.